Yeah, don't worry. I'll grab something from the end.
Yeah, that's what she said. What?
No.
Oh. And we're
Womp
canceled.
womp.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Q-Tips. We are the Video Store Junkies, and we are back to give you some viewing recommendations for the weekend. And we are going to just jump right into it like we always do. Let's go to Paul this time.
Oh, cool. I get to steal this one from anybody in case they did. Because unfortunately, we lost the great David Warner today.
Yeah.
We also lost the great Paul Sorvino, but I wasn't going to pick any films from him. So anyway, and the rest of you going, oh shit, I've got which David Warner film is he going to pick? I'm picking Time Bandits from 1981 on HBO Max and Criterion. This is from Terry Gilliam, that most people may know as the animator from Monty Python, but great director in his own right. And Time Bandits is a story about a young boy who basically falls in with a group of time travelers that stole a map from God. Well, I'm sorry, the Supreme Being. And they are using it to steal shit through time. And so they're being chased by the Supreme Being, but they're also being boop, 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 boop. They're also being chased by David Warner, who is, I guess they list him as evil genius, or I always thought he was just supposed to be, well, he's essentially the devil. And it's a great role for David Warner. And it's a fun film. It's a kid's film, but it's also got a lot of, other fun stuff in it. Got tons. It was written by Terry Gilliam and Michael Palin, actually, together, and it's got tons of people: Sean Connery, Shelley Duvall, Katherine Hellman, John Cleese, Ian Holm, Michael Palin, Ralph Richardson, David Warner, of course, and the head of the group of time traveling thieves is the great David Rappaport. He's wonderful in this, and Kenny Baker is in it as well. Jack Purvis. Really some great folks and really fun film. So that is Time Bandits from 1981, showing on HBO Max and Criterion. And speaking of time traveling thieves, I will pass this to Bill Mulligan.
Well, thank you very much. So my theme is, why can't they make a faithful version of I Am Legend? And we start with The Last Man on Earth, and I must have this somewhere, but it's like from 1964, I'm going to think. It came out before Night of the Living Dead. But if you watch it, you'll be like, wow, Night of the Living Dead got a lot of ideas from this. It's got the great Vincent Price as the last human on Earth, but he's not alone. Ooh, there's the creepy tagline there, because this disease has caused everyone to turn into vampires. And he spends the day walking around staking them, and then at night he goes back to his house and puts garlic everywhere, and they come and stalk him, this is the cat and mouse game that he's been going through. So, I Am Legend is one of the greatest horror books ever written. Richard Matheson, just wonderful. He wrote the screenplay, at least one of the screenplays that was used for Last Man on Earth. It's such a can't miss premise. Last Man on Earth is probably one of the, well, there's three versions, and it has its moments. It's faithful to the book in that they are vampires, and Vincent Price, of course, is Vincent Price. But the director, Ubaldo Ragona, or as he's known in the U.S., Sidney Salcrow. Yeah. So Ubaldo did nothing else of any note whatsoever. It's got some nice black and white photography. It's got a couple of good shots in it, but for the most part, this is just a low budget version, and they you just think this should have been done by someone better. And indeed, it was going to be, because Hammer Studios, they were going to do this a few years earlier with Peter Cushing as the vampire hunter. Would have been great, but the British censors said, no, we will not release this film. They put the whip down. I don't know why this one, chopped their hides so much, but so it's still worth watching, because as it turned out, we had two more shots at this film, this idea, and both of them missed the mark. But that's a story for another time, and I will throw this to Zach.
Wait, can I interject real
Oh,
quick?
by the way, it's on Tubi and Roku.
This one, though, is the only one that really gets the ending right. Does it not, if I remember correctly? This one, don't mention the ending, but I think does not this one.
It does to a degree,
more so than the
completely.
others.
Not completely.
Yeah, but more so.
I mean, without giving away too much, the whole thing, I Am Legend, is that if you're the last human on Earth surrounded by monsters who you go around killing when you can, you are the monster. To these creatures who are beginning to put together their own society, their own concept of what is normal, you are this creature that shows up in the day when they're all sleeping and they wake up to see their loved one staked through the heart. You are a scary ass monster. And that's an amazing thing, and it's also something that moviegoers apparently just freak out every time they try to do it. So they came pretty close, but they kind of chicken out in the end, though to a far less degree than, say, the Will Smith version did, which is, we will not even speak of it. But yes, it's definitely worth watching. Anyway, back
Sorry, I
to
interrupted. You're passing it to Zach.
yeah, Zach.
That's fine. I was just gonna let you rant for. I was actually worried that you were gonna recommend all three. I was like, but there's no way he's actually gonna recommend I Am Legend from 2007. So,
Oh hell no!
That one angers me.
Yeah,
that one makes me want to storm on stage and slap Will Smith in the face. So.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Topical.
Well,
no.
I think let's shelve that for later because that might be an interesting episode to talk about all these adaptations of I Am Legend.
That's true.
But for the time being, I'm not going to talk about I Am Legend. I'm not going to talk about vampires or any of that stuff. I'm going to talk about what a red-blooded American man I am, which just means a couple things. I love fast cars, faster women, hard liquor, and cartoons. Of course, because who doesn't love cartoons? And so my first recommendation today is a cartoon that I've been revisiting lately, and it's just as good as I remember it from when it premiered. I think it's in its 12th season right now. But I am of course talking about a show that features something else I love as an American man. I love me some red meat, and what better way to eat some red meat than in a burger? And what better cartoon to enjoy while you're eating that burger than Bob's Burgers? And if you haven't seen this show, this is one of the many shows that has kind of tried to emulate in a way. Not that they were trying to rip it off, but they've kind of tried to emulate the success of The Simpsons by having a primetime cartoon that is, for not necessarily all ages. Kids can watch it because a lot of the humor that's inappropriate for them is probably over their head. But then if you watch it as a kid and you go back and watch it as an adult, it has all different meanings. But Bob's Burgers, if you're not aware, it's about a guy named Bob, played by H. John Benjamin, who runs a burger joint. It's a family-run place because he has 3 lovely kids and a loving wife. And it's kind of all about their adventures and misadventures. And like I said, it's just really funny. I mean, there's a lot of ha-ha humor. There's also a lot of humor, which I always kind of appreciate. So if you're in the mood for some cartoon watching, I definitely recommend Bob's Burgers, which you can currently stream on Hulu. And speaking of, I don't really have a good segue there. I'm really tired today, so I'm just going to send it over to Renee to see what her first pick is.
Hey, so how's it going? I have a recommendation, and first I would like to apologize because this recommendation does indeed have subtitles. That being said, I honestly think you could watch this movie just and not even reading the subtitles, and I think you would really enjoy it anyway. This is one of those movies that I think right away is right up my alley because it has a group of friends that go somewhere and they end up in a cabin and a whole bunch of other shenanigans happen. And this movie is a Norwegian movie, and it is called Dead Snow. It is a group of medical students, friends that go on a ski trip to Norway. They're in a cabin and they uncover something, and all hell breaks loose when some Nazi zombies decide to show up and wreak havoc on everybody. It's a lot of fun. I really love this movie. It's great. It has a lot of great kill scenes, and it's just great. It's just a great movie, and I recommend it. It is in Norwegian. You can find an English dub version somewhere. I do recommend, watching it with the subtitles if you can stand it. But honest to God, I think you could watch it anyway and just really enjoy it by itself. And it is available on Plex. And again, that movie is Dead Snow. And speaking of Norwegian medical students, I'll pass this to Paul.
I'm glad you didn't say speaking of Nazi zombies. So
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
welcome. Yeah.
please
I
for
was like,
that.
that's a little yucky. Yeah.
That'd be kind of gross. But no, so anyway, but I'm not talking about zombies or Nazis, but I am talking again about David Warner, who played all sorts of great villains. That was like one of his specialties were villains, and probably one of the greatest villains he ever played was the Lobe. The Lobe is a villain featured on Freakazoid, a series from 1995 to 97. It was one of those Warner Brothers series that was produced by Steven Spielberg, like in the heyday of Animaniacs and so forth. And Freakazoid, one word, Freakazoid, exclamation point. The exclamation point is important. Um, is a really goofy superhero cartoon, a lot of absurdist humor, a lot of weird 90s and earlier cultural references that are kind of outdated, but that's okay. They're fun anyway. Some of them were outdated to begin with. Tons of cameos, tons of people in it. I mean, so like I said, you actually had David Warner, who was in like almost half the episodes as the Lobe, which was this villain who was like a giant brain. You had the great Frank Welker, who did voices. You have Jim Cummings, who does voices. But you had people like Ricardo Montalban showing up. You had Ed Asner as the cop, who was in like most of the episodes there as well. Stephen Furst, Clive Revel, Jack Valenti as himself and his adorable cheeks. They kind of reference that. Stan Freberg. There were so many people that showed up in this. Just a really fun, really goofy, bizarre, just almost surreal, goofy comedy. Kids would like it, but really the adults will get the humor more, I think, than anyone. And so that's Freakazoid with an exclamation point. And that is currently playing. I forgot to mention where it's playing. That's playing on Tubi. So speaking of superheroes in their underwear, I'll pass this to Bill Mulligan.
Why, thank you, citizen. Okay, so I Am Legend, written in 1954. Hammer tried to make an adaptation early 60s, didn't go through. They did Last Man on Earth, and it was okay. 1971, they decided to try again, this time Hollywood, big budget, big name actor, Charlton Heston in The Omega Man. This is currently playing on, I have written down Hobo Max, but I think that's a typo, and it's probably HBO Max. Although Hobo Max would be a great name for a superhero or supervillain or something. Um, so this one, now, okay, they decided to make changes. I don't know why. I guess they thought, well, vampires seems kind of silly. The screenwriter actually had a doctorate in chemistry, so he decided to, show off and come up with a plot where it's actually germ warfare, and Charlton Heston's the only one who's immune, and the people who haven't died from this disease have turned into albino mutants, which doesn't sound any more likely to me than vampires, but okay. So they're pretty creepy looking with their white eyes and white skin and white hair, and but the same deal. Charlton Heston runs around. He doesn't use a stake. He's Charlton Heston. He uses a gun. He blows them away during the day as they're hiding from the sun because they don't like the sun because they're vampires like that. And then they come at his place at night. They never think to burn down his house. They just sort of throw stuff at him. And but it gets into the whole. It's kind of sad to be alone, although it's also kind of cool. Frankly, Charlton Heston looks like he's having a pretty good time being alone. He wears a smoke jacket. He's got some fancy art in his house. He goes to he's living large. And the thing I like about this movie is that you look at it and you realize in 1971 you could be an action hero and have more or less a dad bod. Charlton Heston didn't work out and get ripped six-pack abs or anything. I mean, he was a good-looking, masculine guy and everything, but he wasn't a pretty boy. But still, he's, last guy on Earth. And then he finds some humans, including Rosalind Cash. That was a big deal at the time that they had an interracial romance and everything. But then, she gets infected, which, I don't know, looks a little silly, actually, because, it just looks like she sneezed into a big pile of flour. But, okay, they use his blood to make some serum, and it's got an ending that is a bigger Christ metaphor than anything Mel Gibson could have ever come up with. I mean, geez, Jesus, literally, could you make it any more obvious? Listen, I like this movie. It's not I Am Legend. It's it's not really even close. I guess in some ways I like this better than the one we will not talk about. Yes, let's talk about it. Okay, so Will Smith made a movie called I Am Legend, based on I Am Legend. And the first half of that movie, they got it right. The first half of this movie, you're like, yes, finally someone has done this. And then the monsters showed up. And they use CGI. It looks like CGI. It suddenly turns into a video game. But for all that, I would have forgiven them if they had filmed the ending as it was supposed to be. And here's the real tragedy. They did. They did. They had the ending, the ending that makes the title make sense, that puts it all together, and would have made this a great movie. And the audience was like, meh, we don't like our hero not being heroic, meh. So they completely changed it in a way that also makes it impossible to have a sequel. And good, I'm glad, because the movie made a ton of money and they wanted to have a sequel, but they couldn't because they screwed it up. If they had left it the way it is, they could have had a sequel. But no, you had to listen to a bunch of namby-pambies, and you boned yourself, Hollywood. God, will someone just make this book into a movie? People won't even realize that it's been done 3 times because it hasn't been done right. Whatever. Anyway, the Omega Man is on Hobo Max, and yeah. So I will throw this back to. I usually do Renee, but I did Zach this time. Zach.
Yeah, I personally would love to sign up for Hobo Max. That sounds like a really good. It sounds like it's like a streaming service, but somehow it's just like there's like a thing on the. You just insert like a nickel into it, and it plays a movie for you. I don't know what I have in mind, but it sounds great. I will also mention, Bill, you may not be aware of this, but just in case I need to ruin your day a little more, apparently they are still trying to make a sequel to this film. How that would work, I don't know.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I know. I heard they were going to do a prequel.
Oh, okay.
So you could watch Will Smith as the world goes straight to hell around him, knowing that the end of this movie is just going to set you up for the movie you already saw. I don't know why they do this. And luckily, Will Smith has done some things that have pretty much, I think, taken risky propositions like that off the burner. I don't think we'll be seeing it anytime soon. Yeah,
so if they made a prequel to I Am Legend, would it just be called I'm Just a Normal Guy?
I'm just a normal guy.
I mean, anyways, I'm sorry. I should get on to my next recommendation. Renee, I apologize. This episode is running super long now, and since you're editing these days, I don't have to worry about it, but you do. So I apologize. I'm gonna get into my I'm gonna get to my second. Well, okay, I guess I should apologize to the listeners who are like, just get to the thing where you tell me the good. But anyways, so my second recommendation, actually pretty similar to my first recommendation, because I mentioned The Simpsons as kind of the template for prime time, kind of adult oriented cartoons. And if you remember, at one point The Simpsons had a big budget theatrical film, which I always thought was kind of weird because it's, I don't know, I mean, I remember the movie being okay, but it's kind of like just a long episode. But hey, guess what? Bob's Burgers also had a big budget Hollywood theatrical film, appropriately titled The Bob's Burgers Movie. And I guess you could criticize this one a little bit, that it also feels like just a long episode of the TV show. But at the same time, I really like the TV show. So if you're like me and you watch the TV show and you enjoy it, the movie is worth checking out. So this is playing on Hulu and HBO Max right now. I could tell you the plot of the film, but it doesn't really matter. Like I said, I mean, it's just a long episode of the TV show. So if you like the TV show, watch this. I guess I could also say, if you haven't seen the show, watch this, and then maybe that'll tell you if you want to watch the show. I don't know. Do whatever you want, but I just wanted to let people know this is out there. This is one of those movies that got released and then got it was in theaters for a couple weeks, but then it got put on streaming. And there's so much stuff on streaming now, and that's our job, is to tell you when stuff that may have slipped through the cracks is on streaming. So that's what I'm doing right now. So the Bob's Burgers Movies is currently playing on Hulu and DirecTV, and also Hobo Max. So check it out on any of those places. Get your nickels ready if you're watching it on Hobo Max. And speaking of hobos who Renee, can I just be totally honest here? Can I just be Can I just reveal something about myself a little?
Yeah.
Sure.
I feel like sometimes I can't actually say the things I want to say. You being the only woman on the show, I was gonna say, speaking of hobos who will do anything for a nickel, but then I was like, no, I don't want to say that about Renee. I would say that about Bill and Paul in a heartbeat, but not you. So, anyways. Before I get myself into too much trouble, I'm just going to once again pass it over to you for your second recommendation.
Oh my God. Give you the green light for now until forever, because that was good. I like it.
Okay, well, we're just gonna have to put a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode, because then people who haven't heard this are gonna be, man, this guy's an asshole. They only have first of all, they only have one woman on the show, and this asshole saying all these really horrible things. No. We'll get a lot of hate mail. Actually, maybe that's a good thing. So yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
We'll just do that.
Then we'll get mail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
You know, any publicity is good publicity, so I heard. Oh, so my next apology recommendation is an apology to Bill. And actually, speaking of like 60s kid shows and stuff like that, I shouldn't say 60s kid shows, but kid shows and stuff. This was kind of based on a kid show from the 60s that just kind of went defunct. And the guy, like the main guy in the show, he died. Or did he? I'm really not describing the show very well because it was a really weird movie. And Paul probably knows what I'm going to recommend. That movie is called Devil's Junction, Handy Dandy's Revenge. Oh, boy. So a TV studio is haunted by a children's show ventriloquist that is looking for a new audience.
No. Now I see the apology part.
Okay, so it has Bill Moseley and Bill Oberst.
Bill Oberst Jr., yeah.
Yeah.
Who has a lot of bills.
Good. Yeah, I thought he did a really good job. Some of the other people in the movie, maybe not so much. But it was fun. It was kind of one of those things where, you know, sometimes, just kind of like we were talking about, they'll take a movie and just make 800 other movies that you just don't need all that shit. These guys were so nice. They put all this information like into this one movie, so you don't have to waste your time watching a prequel. They're just going to be like, here's the story. Here's what it is. And I just thought that was very nice and polite of them to do that. And it has ventriloquist dolls. And this is a really bad recommendation. Not the movie itself, but me delivering it. So yeah, but I think you should watch it because it's ridiculous. And it's oddly not as bad as you think it might be. And again, that movie is called Devil's Junction, Handy Dandy's Revenge. And surprise, surprise, that movie is available on Tubi and Plex and Flex Flings.
Can I actually interject? I have not seen this movie, but I think I might queue it up on Tubi this weekend because I want to tell just a very short personal story here. I've actually met Bill Oberst Jr., and he's like the nicest guy in the world. Bill, I don't know if you remember, but like 90 years ago, we were at a con, I think it was Horror Find, and there was a film called Dismal playing, which lived up to its name in terms of the quality of the film. But the only thing I took away was...
Can I just interject that I worked on that film?
Oh, I take everything back. It was an amazing movie. It was so good. No, the makeup was amazing, and the main villain was amazing, and it was Bill Oberst, and he was there.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I came up and I was talking to him. Just super, super nice guy. So I second anything that features Mr. Bill Oberst Jr. for sure.
Yeah, he's really great. I second him being a nice guy. I was on Doc's podcast, Gruesome Magazine. I think it was Horde News Radio at the time. And he was like a guest at one point, and he was really nice guy. And he's one of those character actors that does tons of stuff and just shows up everywhere. It's one of those people, once you recognize him, you're like, there he is. And yeah, you'll just recognize him once you see him.
People who are old enough to remember back when Facebook was relevant maybe remember him from the I think it was called Take This Lollipop thing. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but look it up if you haven't heard. No. Okay.
Yikes.
Well, look it up. Yeah, it's one of those things. It was one of those things. It was like this viral thing, and like someone who doesn't like horror at all like showed it to me, and they're like, "This is really creepy." And I was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I've met that guy." So, anyways, sorry. Enough personal asides.
I like how that Paul's like, I'm going to second Bill Oberstein being a nice
Yeah.
guy. Not that he's going to second my recommendation.
Oh, no. I definitely second the recommendation. It was like you said. We were watching. I'm like, I don't know. I shouldn't like this, but I'm really enjoying it. And it has tons of ventriloquist dolls in it.
So many.
Oh, Jesus.
So many.
So many
Well.
Bills. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
I know
It's
what I
fun,
won't be
though.
watching this weekend.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's really weird. But it is. And at one point, they just, like, vomit out the whole story. And it's like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Or, like, the background, I guess I should
There's
say.
I think we were
Vomit
watching. I'm
out
like,
the whole
wow.
story.
There's a lot of lore in this movie.
Yes.
Like it's like very lore heavy, but it works. So
Yeah. Feel bad that I went last.
no, that's okay. If I had known you were doing that one, I would have learned the song for that one. But I didn't.
I forgot there was a special song for that one.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But
Handy dandy song.
does anyone have a song? Oh, why I do.
What?
Yeah, I know.
What?
I know. If is it okay if I sing something? It won't honor David Warner. I'm gonna sing
okay.
the theme from Freakazoid. Super teen extraordinaire, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, runs around in underwear, Freakazoid, Freakazoid, rescues Washington D.C., Freakazoid, Freakazoid, there's something better, something new, Freakazoid, Freakazoid.
For the weekend of July 29th, Paul recommended Time Bandits, available on HBO Max and the Criterion Channel, and Freakazoid, available on Tubi. Bill recommended The Last Man on Earth, available on Prime Video, the Roku Channel, Hoopla, Tubi, Pluto TV, Popcorn Flicks, and Dark Matter, and The Omega Man, available on Hobo Max and HBO Max. Zachary recommended Bob's Burgers, available on Hulu, and Bob's Burgers the Movie, available on Hulu, HBO Max, and DirecTV. I recommended Dead Snow, available on Plex, and Devil's Junction, Handy Dandy's Revenge, available on Tubi, Plex, and Flex Flings.